In the not too distant future, you are going to see a transformation take place along El Camino in San Carlos. I'm Gloria Cohn, and this is City Hall in Focus. Joining me in the studio is Al Savay, the Director of Economic and Community Development for the City of San Carlos. Al, where is this located? Besides El Camino, there's got to be something more specific, right?
Sure, yeah. So what I'd like to do is show you a slide on the screen and take a bird's eye view of the location and describe it to you so we can all see where it is. So on the screen you can see that we have two red boxes there, and those red boxes are right along the east side of El Camino Real, and it's bisected by Holly Street. So the red box on the top of the screen is an area where apartments will be. So is the box on the lower part of the screen, the red box there. It's about 8 acres along El Camino Real, and currently as you drive down El Camino Real, that area is just dirt. And so that's the location. Again, it's bisected by Holly Street, and the terminus of San Carlos Avenue is right where the historic depot is, and so there's going to be some commercial retail there. Now the green box that you see on the screen is a transit center. It's really separate from the Transit Village project, but it's very important and it's integral to the entire development. So I'm going to talk about both of those today.
And the northernmost tip of that red box that we're seeing is, what street is that?
The northernmost tip of it, I'd say Oak Street.
Oak Street. The name of this project is called Transit Village. So tell me a little bit more about Transit Village and how it came about.
So the Transit Village is a 202 apartment unit development with about 26,000 square feet of commercial retail space. And in planning, we call it a transit-oriented development project. And what I mean by that is transit-oriented development is where you have housing and perhaps some retail in very close proximity to rapid transit. And in this case, the intent of this whole development was to put higher density housing and retail right where you could access the Caltrain station and buses. So people don't have to use their cars as much. They can get on Caltrain, they can go up to San Francisco or down to San Jose and go to their jobs and then come home at night without using their cars. So we call it a transit-oriented development. And so that's why we call it a transit village.
How did it come about?
So the way it came about is for many years now on the east side of El Camino Real, essentially it's been dirt. And the dirt started, there used to be businesses there, by the way. And so what happened is a number of years ago, more than a decade ago, the city embarked upon what we call a grade separation project, where the city separated the train tracks and rose it above El Camino Real so people could drive underneath El Camino Real. It was creating a lot of traffic issues in the past. So it created this dirt area where those businesses used to be after the grade separation project was constructed. And so for many years it just sat like that, and it's sort of been the gateway to our community. A few years ago, about 8 or 10 years ago, the San Mateo County Transit Authority, who owns the property, decided it's time to do something with this property. So they're the owners of the property.
Yeah, the El Camino used to be the Grand Boulevard, and it wasn't looking so grand anymore. Is that right?
Right. So that's true. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the Grand Boulevard. So the Grand Boulevard, there's a thing called the Grand Boulevard Initiative, and what the Grand Boulevard Initiative is about 19 cities and the counties of San Mateo and Santa Clara, a number of regional agencies as well. And the idea is to transform what is our Grand Boulevard into something more aesthetically pleasing, that has better mobility for pedestrians, bikes, and cars, and really rise it up. Over the years, there's a lot of strip commercial that's maybe no longer as viable as it once was. So the idea is, how can we raise this up into really a Grand Boulevard again? We believe that this project is a really great example of that.
You talked about 19 cities. Is San Carlos the first to begin this transformation?
If not the first, one of the first, yes.
And you're in a relationship with the County Transit District because they own the land?
Well, it's not so much of a relationship. They own the land, so they're the landowner. And the way that this project came about is the San Mateo County Transit Authority, or SamTrans, decided to reach out to the development community for a proposal. So that's what they did, and they selected a group called Legacy Partners, which is a local developer, to develop the property into some kind of a, like we say, a transit-oriented development project. So they did. They went in and they intended to lease the property to Legacy Partners for almost 100 years so that they could do this development project. So the relationship that the city of San Carlos has with it, one, it's in our jurisdiction, it's in our city. Two, they were required, the developer was required to go to the city and ask for approvals of the development. So we had discretion over what the buildings look like, what the project ultimately ended up being.
And what did the project end up being? You must have some more details about that, including the fact that you've already talked about apartments.
Yes, so 202 apartment units, 3 2 and 1 bedroom apartment units, and they will be very high grade apartments with very high levels of architectural style and interior design. We'll also have about 26,000 square feet of commercial retail space along and next to the historic train depot that we have. There's a number of other aspects of the project that are very important to our community. One would be improving pedestrian access along El Camino, new sidewalks, trees, and things like that, a new public gathering space in front of the historic depot, and a new transit center. And I'll talk a little bit more about those as we get to that.
The historic transit depot is not going away, or it is?
No, that's on the National Register of Historic Places. It was built in the late 1800s, and that's not going anywhere.
Did you have a design with you as well, so you could talk us through some of the details?
Sure. Why don't we refer back to the screen? What I'd like to do is walk the viewers through more bird's eye views to kind of orient people to the site plan. So those yellow buildings that you see are all lined up along El Camino Real. At the top of your screen, you'll see Hawley Street, and that would be north. Those buildings are north of Hawley Street up to about Taco Bell. And there's 4 separate pods of apartment buildings along El Camino Real, and the train tracks are right at the rear of the buildings. The gray area that you see surrounding the buildings is the parking area, and there will also be some parking for those units underneath the building, not undergrade, but in garages behind the building.
Let me jump in here for a second. So the people who take Caltrain will still be able to park in that area, right?
Well, they'll be able to park south of the historic depot, and I'll show you exactly where that is in just a moment. And so, as we're looking at the site plan, we note that there's Hawley Street at the southern portion of the top of the screen. So those are the first 4 apartment pods. Then, Hawley Street again bisects, and it goes El Camino Real at the bottom of the screen there, and there's 2 more apartment pods right next to Hawley Street. Then we have a little bit of retail parking. The historic depot is the small building you see along the railroad tracks, and there's a public plaza that has crisscross markings there and some trees in front of it. That's right in front of the historic depot. And there are 2 buildings, 2 retail commercial office buildings that flank either side of the historic depot. Right now, you can drive right in there and access the commuter parking, but now that's going to be a brand new public plaza. Also, you'll note on the screen lots of trees and green areas, and that will be part of the transformation of El Camino Real, a lot of greening of El Camino Real. Let's move on to the next slide and focus a little bit more on that public gathering space that I noted. Now we're taking a closer focused in view at the intersection of San Carlos Avenue and El Camino Real. At the center of your screen, you'll see a square, and what that represents is new crosswalks across El Camino Real. It's interesting if you look back at photos from the 1930s that we have in our lobby here at City Hall, you'll note lots of people crossing that intersection. They're all commuters. So it's been a commuter hub for decades and decades in our community. We needed to improve the crossing there for pedestrians and bikes. Right now there's only one crosswalk that goes across. We're going to have two, and it will be improved with better visual improvement at grade there. Then you'll have seating areas, you'll have public art fountain. It'll be a wonderful, entertaining environment for people, and it'll be activated by the retail on the ground floor at either side of the historic depot.
When will this start?
So construction is already underway, and what you'll see if you go down El Camino is you'll see lots of fencing, green fencing, and so the site's being prepared for grading and construction. So we're starting to see construction start now, and it will be done in phases, and they'll start with the buildings to the north side near Taco Bell and just walk it down toward the depot. Now the transit center, which I'll describe in just a moment, is at the south of the historic depot. That's where all the commuter parking is going to be, and that's going to start construction in the near future as well. That's on a quicker timeline, and we believe that that's going to be done at the end of next summer or fall, and so that'll be done a little earlier than the rest of the development. The apartments and the commercial development, we'd say 18 to 24 months before that's completed.
Oh, not started, but completed 18 to 24
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
Did you have a rendering of where the parking is going to be for the Caltrain riders?
Sure, and so let's refer back to looking at an illustration on the screen. And so referring to that, this is the transit center. So what you're seeing on the screen is that it's sort of different from the buildings, right? This is where all the new commuter parking is going to be. Currently, the commuter parking flanks the historic depot. It's all moving to the south, and it's moving from right at the end of the retail building all the way down to Arroyo. There will be more than 200 commuter parking spaces there. The parking on the left side of the screen will be reserved for retail, commercial, office area. What's great about this is this area, the transit center, consolidates all the transit components that we have in our community. You'll be able to access the Caltrain station. You'll be able to catch a bus there, shuttles, if you take shuttles to local businesses and Redwood Shores and such, taxis, and what we call a kiss and ride area at the upper left-hand corner of your screen. You'll see a hatched area. You'll be able to drop people off there and pick them up from your car and just drive right back out. This area will have a new stoplight and crosswalk at this intersection, so you'll be able to get across here. And as you can see, lots of trees along El Camino Real, lots of landscaping, really transforming and warming up that dirt area on El Camino Real. So that's the transit center. Let's refer to the next slide and let's see what we have here. So you asked about what this project might look like, and so we have some renderings here, and what we're looking at is we're looking south on El Camino Real. This is as if we're standing across the street looking at the transit village as it's built. And to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see some palm trees, you'll see some buildings, two-story buildings. This is the area of the public plaza and the retail. So that building that you see most prominently there is a retail building. These are two-story buildings, and then as it comes toward you, you'll see where the apartments start closer in perspective on the screen. And you'll note that it's a Mediterranean Spanish style of architecture, very rich in appearance, lots of breaking up of the mass of the building, big windows, tile roofs. You'll see stone used to soften the building as well.
I like the architecture of this, Al. It really fits in with what you're doing as well on Laurel Street in San Carlos, that transformation taking place. More housing, a more beautiful east side of El Camino are certainly some of the benefits to this. What are some of the other benefits?
So some of the other community benefits that I see in this project, we're going to get a beautiful public gathering space right at the terminus of San Carlos Avenue. That's going to be a real exclamation point for our downtown, and it'll be available to the community. It'll be day and night, it's going to look great. As part of the development, as part of the 202 apartments, we're going to get about 10% of those as affordable units. So they will be moderately affordable for the community, and they'll be built into the development project. And you don't see that as often these days. The streetscape of El Camino Real is going to be, it will be a major aesthetic transformation for us along El Camino Real. We're going to get new trees, better walkways, better crosses along El Camino and Holly Street. We're getting a new transit center, which is very rare for any city to get all these modes of transportation put together for the community, for commuters in the community. And so that's a wonderful component of this as well. We're also, what we negotiated as part of this project is more trees along the Caltrain berm. And that'll be important as well. And we don't know exactly how many trees, but we negotiated quite a few. As the train tracks are electrified over the years, and perhaps in the future as high-speed rail comes through, we'll know more about how many trees we will be able to get along the rail corridor there. But that will help to green that Grand Boulevard even more. We're also attempting to plant trees all the way down that side of El Camino, from the transit center all the way down to Duncan Motors. So we anticipate trees to be planted all along that corridor as well. So I think there are a number of community benefits with this project.
Do you have a final rendering of what this is going to look like?
Certainly. What you see here, this is as if you're walking down El Camino Real and looking into one of the courtyards along the development project. And what we did is we worked very hard to break up the mass of this it's a very narrow site, as you noted when we looked at some of the site plans. And so we had to break up the mass of these buildings. And so courtyards were designed into the development project, which does a couple of different things. One, it does that, it breaks it up, makes the buildings look smaller, and it creates a green open space. There will be some public options for seating along El Camino Real. Most of these plazas are private space for the apartments there. One of the other things you'll note here is that all these buildings are no greater than 3 stories and approximately 40 feet in height maximum. And again, the architectural detailing is something that we take a lot of care with, and we work for months and months, if not years, on the architectural design to make the architecture very rich and to make it a very wonderful addition to our community. Let's take a look at another slide as well. This is the public plaza that I was talking about. So this is looking north, and at the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see our historic depot. One of the design considerations that we had when we put this together is we didn't want anything to be taken away from the architectural history or the aesthetics of the depot itself. It was very important to our community, to our history. You'll note that the building in the distance steps down. That's a retail commercial building. You'll see the stone, which is reminiscent of the historic depot, and it's a 2-story building, so we don't rise up very, very high next door to it. You'll see seating areas with stone, and there will be landscaping, there will be public art, water features, and day and night, this is going to be a fantastic looking addition to our community.
Well, it sounds like you are going to transform El Camino back into the Grand Old Boulevard with all of these additions.
Yes, I think it'll be a wonderful addition to our community.
Thank you for joining me today. If you want more information about the Transit Village, any development that's happening in San Carlos, or any general questions about the city, you can visit their website. This is City Hall in Focus. I'm Gloria Cohn.